Can you imagine if you went from an unknown employer into an awarded employer within a matter of 6 months after you started to implement and execute strategic employer branding with us based on our magnetic employer branding method?
I certainly can, because this is exactly what happened to Airbus Defence and Space in Finland.
That's right. At the start of this year, we witnessed them accepting the award for creating an employer brand at the Magnet Employer Brand Awards in Finland. And in this episode, my colleague and my co-host Nora and I discussed with our guest Maiju Karppinen from Airbus Finland what it has been like to build the magnetic employer brand with us. And if you remember, just before the summer, Maiju was a guest on this podcast and we discussed her employer branding career journey. And this was the previous episode number 185. I hope you have listened to that already. The three of us have been working together on a weekly basis since August 2023. So implementing and executing the employer branding strategy that we created for Airbus Defence and Space Finland in the spring of 2023. And today we're going to share some insights from Maiju with you guys. So, okay, Nora, are we ready for a conversation with Maiju?
Yes, we are. Let's bring Maiju in.
Let's bring Maiju in. All right, welcome back to the show, Maiju. Last time you were here, we discussed your personal employer branding career path. Did you get many comments on the episode? Were people asking about your career or anything about your podcasting experience?
Yes, thanks, Susanna. It's great to be back. Yes, I received so many sweet comments from the last podcast episode from our internal employees who were really excited to listen to the episode, but also from my external network. So people have been really supportive, really excited when listening to the podcast. So I'm really happy for that.
It's amazing. Good.
Yeah.
We're happy for you too. So
Absolutely.
today we want to tap into implementing the employer branding strategy based on the magnetic employer branding method that I've developed. And maybe our audience already knows because we kind of spoke about that in a little bit, touched on the topic last time. But this is what the employer branding strategy that you guys have at Airbus Finland is, so it's based on that. But before we go into that, for those of our listeners who did not listen to the previous episode with you, can you briefly introduce yourself first? Tell us who you are, your role in connection to Airbus Finland, and obviously Airbus Finland's Airbus branding, employer branding. So many A's.
Yes. So for those of you who haven't met me yet, so my name is Maiju Karppinen and I work as an HR business partner at Airbus Finland or Airbus Defence and Space OY. I've been at the company since April 2020, so a little bit over 4 years now. We have a small HR team here in Finland, so we have five of us here. But I'm alone responsible for employer branding, although I, of course, always receive support from my lovely colleagues whenever I need that. But employer branding in Airbus Finland is owned by HR, or basically by me then. And of course, I've received a lot of help and coaching and support also from our marketing team. But basically, so yeah, I'm the owner of employer branding here in Finland. It's, however, not the only topic I'm responsible for. So I have quite of a broad role, and I share my time between, employer branding, then work well-being and workability topics, and then I support some of our local teams here in Finland with their HR.
Yeah, and
Great.
that is what we discussed last week. So if you did not listen to the last week's episode, then please do it after this because, one of the things that many people working in employer branding wonder about is like, how am I going to not struggle, but juggle all of my various HR talent acquisition responsibilities? And Maiju is sharing how she does. Good one. So Maiju, obviously when we started working together, the whole challenge was that Airbus Finland is quite unknown as a workplace. So let's not assume that our listeners know what Airbus Finland is and does. Can you let everyone know what Airbus Finland does and, for example, who are your typical customers? Because they're actually a little bit...
Yes, thanks, Susanna, for asking. So yes, our brand is often associated with commercial airplanes. However, in Finland, we actually work with mission-critical communications, which means in practice that we develop and maintain different communication solutions. So in practice, it can mean networks or it can mean applications. Obviously, we have a couple of employees supporting other Airbus businesses as well. But most of us here in Finland work with our critical communication solutions. When it comes to our customers, we work with different authorities, for example. So police, firefighters, health and rescue, just to mention a few. Our customers can also be governments. And then we also have what we call business critical customers. So you're able to find our products, for example, in different kind of public transportation, such as metro lines or airports. Customs can use our products, and then big events as well as the Olympics is a place where you're able to find our product.
And the word pairing mission critical in regards to communication. Can you sum up that as well or explain? Because I think that it took me, when we started working, it took me a while to just like really grasp what are you doing. But now that I do, it's impossible to kind of not see, not necessarily your solutions everywhere, but like when I see authorities, I'm thinking like, yeah, this is, for example, what Airbus is doing, and that device there has their solution probably. So can you just like mission critical, what does that have to do with the Olympics, for example? Because I really like a really good example.
Yes, yeah. Olympics is good, but I think maybe authorities might be even easier to understand, because authorities, we all know they have a mission. So if we think about fire and rescue, for example, or firefighters and healthcare, they have a mission to accomplish. They need to save lives, and to be able to perform in their role, they need to be able to communicate safely, efficiently, and that communication will also allow them to cooperate more smoothly. And we are the service provider there, so we want to offer them those products that enable their communication and collaboration, so that they are able to focus on what really matters. So they are able to focus on using their expertise to save lives or secure our society.
Yeah, so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. For me, it was easy to understand through your like slogan. We help those who save lives, or we help connect those who save lives. So that was something that that's easy to understand.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So what about Airbus as a workplace in Finland particularly? How would you describe?
Yes, so Airbus Finland employs around 380 employees. So we have two sites. Most of us work in Helsinki, so around 75% of our employees work in Helsinki, and 25 then in Jyväskylä.
Where you are today.
I am in Jyväskylä today. Very excited to be here. I love coming to Jyväskylä. I'm from Helsinki myself, so this is very, very different to me in a way. But yeah, most of our employees, as I mentioned already, work with critical communication software. So we employ a lot of tech talents, but we also have a lot of business-focused professionals. And what else could I tell you? We have a really
Tell me about like the day-to-day culture, like the atmosphere at the office. Is it different between Helsinki and Jyväskylä? Like how would you describe the feel? What can you sense when you're there?
Yes. There are differences between the sites for sure, because Jyväskylä has the benefit of being the smaller site. So maybe people know here each other a bit better, and they have a different kind of, community spirit, and we're trying to mimic that also in Helsinki. We're trying to build that there. But I think that in general, in the company, I personally really enjoy the company culture, and we as an employer are working hard on maintaining, encouraging, and inclusive environment for our employees. And then thinking back to the feedback I've received from our employees, they always highlight that it's really easy to get support here from your peers and from your managers. So whenever you need it, there's always someone, helping you out. So I personally think that we play well together, and we want to succeed together as a team. But maybe most importantly, what's really important for me personally is that we have a lot of fun also at work. So there's often laughter at the office, both in Helsinki and in Jyväskylä. And I know that many of us have been building relationships that carry on even outside of work. So I, for example, have gotten many, many dear friends from the company that I know will be with me for life. And that's something I'm really, really grateful for.
Yeah.
And then one more thing that I must mention, because I think this is the most interesting part of our company when we talk about culture, is the ethnical diversity that we have in Finland. We're an international company, but it's also visible at the coffee machine. So we have 25 different nationalities working with us, and that brings extra flavor to our culture and the work we do. And that I find very intriguing.
I can imagine this morning when I was doing some content for summer for your organization, for employer branding, and I was thinking about that exactly, like having 25 nationalities within the organization. Just goes so much, or must go so much way beyond, just seeing different, hearing different languages at the office and so on, because with different ethnic backgrounds, you get like different cultures, different ways of behaving and thinking and communicating, and you get different views, different perspectives, different characteristics in people based on ethnic history, on the way that they see things. So it must make like the collaboration at your office is just so amazing in sense that it definitely has so many angles to it. And I think that's probably one of the greatest benefits for people who get to work in an organization with many, many, many nationalities together. So
yes, you nailed it, because culture affects so many aspects that we don't even think about, like how we make decisions, how we give and receive feedback, for example, and these types of things. True. So it's really interesting.
And
exactly.
That's actually something your newcomers pinpoints over and over again when we have asked them what have surprised them when joining Airbus. They always mention the diversity and the diversity of nationalities, especially. So.
Yeah, diversity is such a hype word at the moment. So it's also something that people can feel like, it's kind of like greenwashing the whole thing. But like when you really think about it, like how does it look like? What does it mean in an organization? So I think that how it feels for employees is exactly what you said, that like the way that we experience each other and learn from each other, like how all the versatile ways of making decisions and everything that you mentioned. So it's really something that, if you've never really, let's say, traveled much or been in contact with like day to day with foreign people, then it can be quite surprising, because like a totally Finnish or totally whatever nationality workplace is going to be so much different, from the employee experience perspective than a workplace that is filled with nationality.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Really good point.
So Airbus Finland is obviously a prominent organization. Every journey always has a starting point. And now I'm referring to the employer branding process. Can you walk us through, Maiju, where you guys were at in terms of like your employer brand awareness before you initiated the process of starting employer branding?
Yes, I think that here it's really important to understand that Airbus as a brand is so strongly associated with commercial aircraft and maybe even helicopters. but those are actually only two divisions of the whole Airbus group. So the company and the business that we have in Finland belongs to a division called Defense and Space, meaning that even though Airbus and Airbus Commercial has a really strong, like a product brand, it hasn't helped us here in Finland in terms of employer branding. And that was actually one of the pain points that we faced because quite frequently when we had a job seeker, they thought that they applied to an airplane company. And yes, they were not wrong there, but we don't work with airplane. And then also in general, nearly everyone outside of the company have been very surprised to even learn that Airbus has operations in Finland. So it was, about time for us to start keeping more noise of ourselves to be able to attract relevant talent. And that was two of the background factors. But then in addition to that, our business was also transforming. So during the past years, we have redefined our product portfolio a little bit. And this has had an impact on our culture and ways of working. So the existing employer brand that we had was quite strongly linked then to the previous portfolio. So it was about time to start sharing about, the new winds that we face here in Finland.
Obviously, convincing an organization as substantial as Airbus to invest in employer branding. How did you talk us through that journey? How did you navigate that process? What factors might have influenced that decision to start employer branding and then obviously choose the magnetic employer branding method?
I think that we benefit from belonging to such a big group. So Airbus Group, when it employs around 134,000 employees, it obviously has its own employer branding team located all around the world. But unfortunately, our HR team in Finland, we lacked resources a bit, or we had limited resources. And that was one of the key factors that led us to look for an external partner. And we do have external employer branding partners in other parts of Airbus as well, but we really needed to find a local partner. So I got into it. I started investigating on like the providers that or employer branding agencies that work here in Finland. I met Leo, who is one of your colleagues, and I was immediately blown away about him also like as a person, because he was so warm. He had that heartfelt attitude, and he was so genuine, and I felt it was so easy to connect with him that I like immediately started to think about like, okay, wow, what would it be like working with him and your company then? And what I was really impressed about when we continued the discussions was your approach, meaning that you emphasized on the implementation phase a lot more than your competitors, if I may call them that. So basically, all the other approaches were maybe a bit more focused on measuring the starting point and then building on that. Whereas you were like ready with me to get our hands dirty right away, go directly into actually implementing, to working on the employer branding strategy to get those results. So I felt right away there that you are the partner I want to work with. And then of course your way of seeing employer branding, or your way of placing talent as hero was something that really spoke to me, something I found was like, it was quite like obvious, like this is how you're supposed to do it, or I thought. So then it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I've shared this story with you two before, but I walked to my manager and I said like, I've made my decision. I want this guy. I want this company working with us. And then luckily she was fine with it. And then we started our cooperation, and it has been awesome.
Yeah. That's such a great story also. Yeah. Talking about convincing, and you partially addressed this already, but if you could like summarize it, what made you choose us at Emin as your partner? really convinced you in the end?
That's a good question, and maybe I need to summarize my previous answer. Basically, I just felt so warmly welcomed when I had the chat with Leo, the first chat. So he did great, and I felt that he was really interested and that he really wanted to understand my pain points and what we're looking for in a partner. And then obviously the discussion went on for a couple of months, I think it was, before we actually got the green light and were able to proceed with you. I would love to have, some kind of, motivational factors here behind why we decided to end up with you. But it was, it was just so obvious, from the first time I had the chat with Leo, I just knew that it was,
just knew.
I just knew. No, obviously we had discussions with other partners as well, but I think for me, your approach just, stood out. It was different than what any other partner could have offered here in Finland, and that's why I thought that it was intriguing.
And that's really good that you mentioned that Leo wanted to understand your pain points, because our goal and aim is to help and guide you as an employer branding professional in achieving success in your work and enhancing your skills. That we want to openly share our knowledge, and that's why we get excited whenever you ask questions from us, and it shows your dedication and willingness to learn and grow, and that's why I feel super lucky we get to work with you, because we share a similar kind of enthusiasm and drive for employer branding work, and it's so easy to work with you.
Yeah, I must reveal to our listeners, Susanna have a lot to deal with when they work with me, because I can write messages. We have a chat where we write messages every now and then, not maybe daily, but I can, an idea comes to my head during one evening, and then after working hours, I write a message, and I always try to be you don't need to read this or answer this right away, but I get a lot of these questions, and I always present them right away, not thinking about if it's appropriate or not. But but luckily you're just as excited about the topic as I am.
Yes, we are.
We have really good conversations.
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
It's the WhatsApp group that the three of us share. I think it's an important tool for the three of us also to exchange those ideas, just like you would. I mean, if I send a message to any of my friends, I don't expect them to respond to me immediately, but I know that it's there. They will when they have time. And I just, I know that Nora shares this with me, but we just like our little trio, and it's fun to have those unofficial chats in our little group, and share those notes and silly gifts. We introduced you to our world of communicating with crazy gifts as well.
I'm still trying to get into that. I will eventually one day.
Yeah, it will stick to you. Don't worry. Okay.
I promise.
Now, the whole employer branding strategy process, we know from experience of working with many organizations that it can seem like a complex process. I think our listeners would like to hear from you, how did you feel about the initial stages when we started to craft your employer branding strategy? Was it challenging? Was it time consuming? Was it difficult? Did we require too much from you? Did we have challenges or conflicts, or was it smooth? Or what were if you remember still, your experiences from that?
Yes, I do remember. Well, I cannot lie. Well, the first time I saw the amount of pre-work you sent over to me for you to be able to start working with the strategy, I got a bit overwhelmed because there was a lot of materials. And it took me a while. I think I read it through a couple of times before I really understood what do I need to do now.
Yeah.
However, you were there for me during every step of the way, and you encouraged me to reach out if I don't understand something and so on. But there was a lot of background materials, and it took time to go through all of the data that we have available to see if it could be something beneficial for you. But I think that your instructions were super clear. So it got quite quickly, I understood like what you're expecting of me. So yes, it took time, but it was also really rewarding, and I enjoyed it, especially because I got to involve our employees in the crafting process. So I hosted a lot of different workshops, both in Helsinki and in Jyväskylä, and I got to hear different views of our company, which was really, yeah, as I said, rewarding to me as well. But after that, after I completed, I sent a lot of data to you as well, so it
Yes, you
also
did.
took some time from you to go that through. But it was quite, smooth sailing after that. So you came back to me with a strategy, we reviewed it together, and then we were like ready to roll. And I always felt that I got the support I needed from you, and that it was really valuable in the beginning for me because everything was so new. But yeah, then on the basis of that strategy that you crafted, you also created a communications plan for us, and it has worked as a baseline for our daily operations.
Yeah, and I have to think about that, the strategy, like the planning part of the process that we do, the magnetic employer branding method. Yeah, like earlier you mentioned that with the competing companies that you were discussing potential partnership, that they were more like focused on discovery phase and getting you information and data instead of like execution. That that phase, that discovery phase, is still important, even though we want to emphasize the actual implementation and the execution, because the magnetic employer branding method is based on your authentic culture, your business mission, your customer promise, your employee experiences, your values, your beliefs within the organization. So for this to be really magnetic and authentic, like the outcome, your employer brand, obviously we need to have information to base it on, to figure out what makes you special, what makes you unique, what makes you different from those other key competitors that your employees and future employees could choose instead of Airbus Finland. But our clients have us to do many workshops or different various ways to collect that information. And then other times usually we recommend that if you have a specific budget, let's say that we give you good instructions how you get or gather the information internally so that you can save your employer branding budget from that. So you don't have to pay for us to do it because it will get expensive. And let's us then focus or invest your employer branding budget on the actual marketing and the communication side, because our method is so different from the ways that organizations usually communicate, that I think that we can give you better value for your money when you get our expertise on that, because you can do workshops and you can gather that information without us, and we just give you the templates and the instructions. But yeah, sometimes clients say like, well, we don't have the time. Can you do all of it? Of course we can, but usually it's the budget that is the limit. And I rather you invest in getting the brand stories out there than doing all sorts of background work with us that never kind of goes anywhere. That is not going to grow your employer brand awareness, like the background work. It's, getting those stories out there. So that's why that I'm glad that you still felt that you were supported by us and the instructions were clear, even though but it is overwhelming. I can
But it is
understand.
also, it was also really interesting, and I would love to do it again. Like seriously, I would love to do it again because it was, it gave me also personally a lot, and it was fun to see how the process works. So maybe at some point in life I get to do it all again. I would be happy to.
Some of those internal work you could actually do, let's say, like in a year's time, because then there's a couple of years that has passed in between, and you have new employees as well. So it could be interesting to see, like, where do they stand now and what do they do now? Because you're also going through transformation. So then getting sort of like updated information internally will then be helpful with the stories and the external. So go ahead. You can do that. The strategy word, the term, that sometimes very intimidating. And we've actually had clients who've told us that you cannot talk about this as a strategy, that our organization, we have these rules that we only had one strategy and it's this strategy, and that this particular work cannot be called a strategy. So there's a lot of it's weird that it has so much emotions in there, and people can feel quite intimidated with the word strategy. When we first told you that we're going to have to do a strategy, were you intimidated? What were your first thoughts?
I didn't perceive it as intimidating, not at all. I didn't,
Yeah.
to be honest, I didn't think about it because I knew we needed to get really consistent with our employer branding activities. And what is a better way of reaching that than having a strategy that you can follow. And I think that the strategy you have created is really comprehensive, covering, key goals and objectives, KPIs, metrics, strategic talent segmentation. It allows us to follow our progression. And we're able, with the help of that strategy, I think we're able to really say what we have accomplished with the work that we are putting in. And that's why I really appreciate it and like it. And I do it every now and then to refresh my memory a bit on.
Yeah, that's good, because so do we.
That's important.
So do we.
Did you get any feedback from the organization about the strategy or the strategy work? Do you remember what they said? What was it?
Well, actually, I haven't. I didn't share the strategy with our organization when we started the implementation phase. I actually just very recently shared the strategy, the company, because I don't know actually why, but at first I was so focused on the actual implementation phase that I didn't focus that much on sharing internally, what is it that we actually do. And maybe now after time has passed and we can actually see results, it has gotten a bit easier also to talk internally about the topic. And so now I have hosted and actually will host today one more session where I explain more to our internal employees, what is it that we actually do and what kind of strategy we have in place and so on. But I think that the feedback that I have received is that people have been quite surprised to see how strategically and how systematically we are working on this. So it's not just about, content creation, publishing on social media. There's so much more going on behind the scenes. And I think that has been a surprise to many.
I think I think this is a very valuable to hear about the feedback you received regarding the strategy and the strategy work, because it gives us important insights into how our method and strategy is perceived within the company, the organization Airbus. And I think you've done an amazing job positioning yourself as the people advisor to your top management. They no longer need to worry about the impact of their strategic planning on people, because you provided them with a solution through this strategy. But maybe you have noticed how easy it is to win the trust and buy-in from the top management when you speak their language with the strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I have to say that it is the strategy and execute, and not just the strategy, obviously. If you don't execute it, then you don't get results. But the strategy helps you to execute, and then when you have this system as a process for execution, then you get the results, and you've had amazing results. So,
really amazing. Yeah.
So we spoke about this before, but many employers would love getting their employees engaged with employer branding the way Airbus Finland employees are engaging with. Your people are just amazingly active, and they are so willing to contribute. They are timely in contributing their contributions to our content creation process. They are engaging on the post, especially on LinkedIn a lot. What do you think is your secret?
That's a really good question, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And this was actually something I was a bit nervous when we started the implementation phase, because I wasn't sure if I'm going to get anyone to want to participate to this, but I think that there are a couple of aspects contributing to that. So first of all, starting with like my personal role, so something that has, I think, worked in my benefit is that having a role with that many responsibilities and that, wide scope of responsibilities maybe has really helped me to build a network inside the company. And so I already knew the people. When we started to implement, I knew right away, like, who could be interested in participating in the social media content. So I already had, a couple of names in mind, and then I started to build on that. And obviously, when you get the first ones on board, it gets easier to convince the other ones. But then I also try to, as time has passed, I try to involve our employees in this as much as I can. Whenever I post about individual employee, I take the time to review or at least to share the numbers and figures, statistics from their personal post. And I found that this is actually quite interesting to people, and maybe especially to our engineers. It provides them with something concrete, and they actually get something out of it when they, kind of like see the numbers and understand like how the post is performing and so on. So that's something that I'm going to build on even more in the future. So I'm going to post even more like this kind of like internal employer branding infos where we can take a look together at the bigger picture and the numbers, so our employees can clearly see like how they being active can affect and help our social media performance. So I try to be really, inclusive with this as well. But then in addition, something we have been discussing with you already is that our employees have learned that we post systematically. So they also know when to expect the posts. And this is also something I've communicated openly in the company. So as we've already presented many of our employees on social media, as I said, it gets easier to recruit new faces. But then I can also see that whenever I have introduced or posted someone on social media, I think it kind of builds this funny, I don't know, like, what's the word, like community spirit in a way. So if you see that somebody has been supporting you and your personal post on social media, I think that it's building, willingness to do it for others as well. So I think we have really also succeeded in creating like authentic content, of course, but I think that it has, I hope at least, and now I hope that it's not just my personal opinion, but that our employees can stand behind it. But it feels that this is something that we do like the whole company together. And that's what I really enjoy. All of it's not just me, building this or with you too. It's like the whole company is involved and participating.
Your response and the way that like this insight is going to be so valuable to our listeners because you are doing so many right things internally to support the success of their contribution. Two things that I want to pick up from there. The first one was that, which I think that like this contribution, I think that it reflects to one of your values, the respect. Because one of how you've explained what respect means in your company is that you respect the contribution of others. So your colleagues respect the contribution of you to the employer brand. You show that back, respecting their contribution to employer brand. And you just gave us like really incredible examples how you guys do it. And then the other one, which is really, I don't think you know this, but when you said that they kind of feel that if their colleague already complimented on their post, then they feel obliged to compliment back. And this is actually one of the traits in the science of persuasion. It's called reciprocity. So when you like someone first or show them that you like them, that you support them, it's a psycho approach or psychological way in us that we feel like positively obligated to return the favor, so to speak. And that science of persuasion is like rooted in this method, in the magnetic employer branding methodology. So that's a really good example of how it works. But I think that it is mostly based on the value that you have, the value of respect, because you've mentioned before how it works. And I think that this is just an example, like a statement of that value internally as well, that you people really appreciate each other's contributions and you support each other. So that's really amazing. We're running a little bit, or we're going to run out of time soon because you have to have your employer branding info soon. But a couple of things that I want to still get onto. So first of all, we already mentioned this in the last episode, but because there was some time in between, we want our audience to know that Airbus Finland won in the Magnus Employer Branding Awards in Finland in the spring, the award for creating an employer brand strategy. So that's like the Employer Branding Strategy Award. Well, obviously, we were together being sort of rewarded for the strategic work and how it worked. And we know that you guys celebrated this a lot. You went on a vacation and then you came back. There was another celebration for you. So it also sounded like a really amazing collaborative and collective effort within the organization to appreciate the work that you do together. So that was really amazing. Can you share with us what kind of feedback have you received since the award, or have you heard people talking about employer branding internally? Has this award changed how your colleagues in your organization feel about employer branding now? Any sort of thoughts on that?
Yes. How would I frame it? It's obviously quite like still early days because we won just like a couple of months ago. It's not even been two months, so kind of still early days. But the feedback that I got after the victory was absolutely insane. I was blown away by the support and encouragement our employees showed to me. It was just so fantastic. And I think this also proves a point I said earlier, that employer branding is hopefully something that the whole company finds interesting, and it's something we do together. And I think that's one part of why people were so happy for the victory. It wasn't my victory. It was the whole company winning because we've done it together. And I think it really, it gives us a good opportunity to continue to sell employer branding and its importance internally. Of course. And as I said also in the previous episode, I'm really excited to continue building on this success that we've done great in terms of increasing awareness, but now we have new goals that we want to reach. And I'm sure that, winning this prize will help us towards those goals.
Certainly, it's a very tangible bonus for the work and expression for your top management, and not just in Finland, but, you've received feedback also from Airbus group, from various people in the group outside Finland, that they've also noted that your work and not just Maiju, your work, but obviously the collective work of Airbus Finland on this. And I'm sure that it's exactly what top management wants to see, that if they invest in employer branding, they want to see a change. And I think that's exactly what has happened already within pretty short time.
Yes.
Really absolutely exciting. And I'm interested to know, you said you were blown away from the feedback you received. Do you remember what they said? Yeah. You're maybe too humble to say it out loud, but now I make you say it.
Share us what they said.
They said a lot. Most we're getting a bit embarrassed.
No, you can say it.
No, but many of the comments were related, to the fact that, I do this that it's a passion and it shows, and that it shows that I have a lot of fun doing it, thanks to you guys as well. But a lot of the feedback was related to that that they have seen the work the effort that I've put into it, and they can see that it pays off, and that they are also really proud of the achievements. So
It's amazing.
That is the feedback.
Really lovely. Yeah. And you should be proud of yourself.
Yes,
I am proud of us. Yes. I'm proud of our company.
Yeah.
I'm
and
proud of our team
too.
and myself. Yes, of course.
Yes, good. Yes, good one. All righty. Listen, I'm sure that our listeners out there are hugely inspired by your employer branding journey, Maiju. And if they want to find you, if they want to connect with you, if they want to know more about Airbus Finland, ask any questions about your employer branding work, or the employer branding role, or are become interested in Airbus as a workplace, how can they find you on social media? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I would be happy to answer all of those questions, or grab lunch, coffee, whatever. It's always interesting to connect and hear people's stories. So if you're interested in that, you'll able to find me. I think LinkedIn is my main channels. Maiju Karppinen is my name there. So you just send me a contact request. Yeah. We'll go from there.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, that's it for this week. So come back for another episode on building a modern employer brand. We will provide you with the links to reach Airbus Finland and Maiju on social media on the show notes page for this episode. All you need to do is go to modernemployerbrand.com/podcast 180. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Susanna Rantanen. I had Nora as my co-host and Maiju as our guest, and this is Building a Modern Employer Brand. Moi moi.
Ciao.